The Foundry. Old, gray, and metal to the core.
Hey, welcome to The Foundry. Happy New Year. I'm Bruce. This is my partner, Nick. Nick, you want to say hello?
Hey, guys. How is it going?
We are back. We had a little bit of a delay last month, but we're back with our what's hopefully to be our, monthly review of things that are really moving us in the heavy metal world or in the heavy music world, and then followed up by something that is a little bit out of the norm, maybe for what you would associate with both of us, I think, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what we're hoping to do. Kind of open up some new horizons for people and for ourselves.
Right. So we could just jump right in. And these were obviously picked at the end of last year, so the end of 2021, but I still think they hold true because I'm still spinning them. Why don't you tell us what you picked first?
I picked Cradle of Filth's new one, Existence is Futile. It's another band that it has took a while to release a new album, and it's a huge and long album. 14 tracks on this one. And so I thought it would be a great way to start off the new year. I've always been a Cradle fan from the beginning, kind of gone away from it a little bit over the last few years. But for me, this album, it's more solidly black metal than the last few albums, I think.
Yes.
I think they kind of were black metal, and then they kind of moved into goth a little bit, maybe goth rock, goth metal. I feel like this one is a little bit more towards how they began, although I still felt like it was a mixed bag.
Did you really? I could definitely see where it flew back or revisited like the early days, and then when I was a fan. But then I kind of, like you said, I lost a little bit of traction with them in the last two records, or sometime like 10 years ago. But this one came back really strong, and it was very surprising.
Yeah, I felt it was a lot more sophisticated than Cryptoriana.
Right.
And that sophistication was what kind of drew me to Cradle of Filth to begin with.
Right.
Lots of stuff going on. You can put your headphones on, turn the lights off, listen to every single instrument, listen to the album 4 or 5 times in a row.
Oh, yeah.
Get something different from it. And that's kind of where this is heading back to. There's some really catchy riffs, really good vocal lines, which I felt were lacking more recently.
Yeah.
And like I mentioned before, and what kind of harkening back to the last episode that we had, this is another band that waited 4 years to release an album.
Right.
And it just kind of fits with the mold of coming back really, really strong.
Yes. And we did that with Carcass as well. They came back really, really strong in our last one. But this one, I mean, as soon as that like intro instrumental gothic thing gets out of the way, I mean, I guess it sets the mood. But holy crap, when Existential Terror kicks in, I mean, I was like, holy cow, this is old Cradle of Filth. His voice is like what it should be. He's spitting all these, lack of a better word, diatribes. I mean, he's Danny Filth, and he's back.
Yeah, he's definitely back, very strong. But for me, the highlight of this whole album was the drumming. Marthas has been with them since Godspeed, I believe.
Okay.
And I don't know if maybe the production's just different or more metal, or if he had better riffs to work with this time. But his performance on this album is stellar, and that's what just drives this album for me.
So well produced, well organized, I think well sequenced. You get the moods going from one song to the next, especially from songs like, Crawling King Chaos into what's that, Black Smoke Curling from the Lips of War? Is that what it was?
Something of that nature.
I think that's what it is. So, I mean, they I know there's a whole art in sequencing that I think is sort of lost in these days, and we talk about it a lot on the podcast because everybody wants that one single, but this is an album that top to bottom, they flow together, and thought was taken, I think, to create those moods and those vibes.
Yeah, absolutely. I did find it kind of hilarious for Cradle to be doing a climate change song.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. You know, I kind of was like, just leave that to Carcass, and
Right.
and I because I can't take Danny seriously. You know, not in. I don't mean that by like seriously as a black metal artist or seriously as a vocalist or a lyricist. All of those things I take him very seriously.
Right.
But just in his subject matter and his opinion on things or whatever, because it's always been over the top fantasy gothic craziness, right? And a lot of tongue in cheek. Well, what are you going to do tongue in cheek with climate change unless you're like Skyclad, right? So I take him for what he is, and being a serious topic, addressing serious topics is not one of those those things. So
you have a favorite, or
well, since there was 14 tracks, I actually picked a few more than I normally do, or I have been. Existential Terror, Necromantic Fantasies, Stark Invincible. That one I didn't really. I thought was going to be a little corny or cheesy or whatever, even by their standards. But after listening to it, I was like, oh man, there's some great riffs in here and some great vocal lines.
And it's catchy. That's one of the ones that, I mean, it's got like a sing-along chorus almost, which is interesting for them. That's on my list as well.
Yeah, Unleash the Hellion is great. The great end to the album is like the perfect thing because you want to go back and listen again. But the top pick is Crawling King Chaos, which has been rare with these albums we've been doing because it's actually the one they chose for the video, I believe, right?
Right, yeah.
And then, but I did want to mention Sisters of the Mist because that song contains the best riff on the whole album. And it's just really, really cool. So what were your picks?
So obviously Existential Terror totally took me away and I was hooked immediately. So that's definitely in the top 3. But I really, really like Discourse Between a Man and a Soul, especially with those weird, I don't know what the word is, old school piano kind of vibe thing going on.
Yeah, almost a harpsichord.
Yeah,
sort of, maybe.
I really, really like that. Of course, it was very heavy as well. And then I liked, it's a short tune on there. How Many Tears to Nurture a Rose?
Yeah.
That song rips and it's catchy and it's got a really, really good chorus as well.
Yeah. It's so many to choose from.
It's got a really wicked galloping tempo and it just, I thought that one was, and it's short and it's kind of sandwiched in between everything, but that one definitely caught my eye and I really dug it.
Awesome. Well, overall, I think that if you're a fan of early Cradle of Filth, you're going to be pleasantly surprised by this album. If you have found yourself not buying Cradle albums for the last 10, 15 years, I would get this one.
Yeah, I would have to agree because that's where I've been at. I haven't really paid them much attention in the last few. And this one is, I don't know that I would have grabbed it to listen to as heavy as deeply as it did if you hadn't suggested it, but I'm glad I did because it's really, really good.
Yeah, awesome. Well, let's go on to yours. You chose what in the world? Sorry about that.
No worries at all.
The Devil Wears Prada, and we're calling this Zombie 2 the follow-up, right?
Right. I'm assuming that's what it is because it's Z2, and we just did some research. There's no Roman numeral Z, and it's a follow-up to the Zombie one from way back, which I think was one of their better ones and their heaviest ones. So I was excited to hear from this one. And this is a band that, wherever you are in their belief system or whatever, they are so good. At least for me, they are consistent.
Mm-hmm.
And they're good. And I don't know that.
Yeah.
I was trying to go back just before we were prepping for this and seeing if there was anything that I dislike in their catalog. And I can't really, besides single songs, I can't find a record that I thought was, wow, maybe they shouldn't have done that. But this is a band I think is really consistent. They do a lot with EPs instead of full length releases. And maybe that's a reason because it's easier to put, stay focused on 4 or 5 songs. But boy, I think they do it well.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, this style of music, I call it metalcore. I don't know if
that's
would
what
be
accurate. I would call it. Yeah.
But for me, it's kind of the rap music of the metal world,
and a lot of people think that, right?
I don't say that derogatory in nature. What I mean is that it's more about the rhythms and it's more about the breakdowns.
Yes.
But having said that, this album presented actually a lot of pleasant surprises for me. Like several of the clean vocal sections, which I typically don't like in this style of music, created really good atmosphere within those songs. Nightfall, Nora, Contagion all had really good clean vocal parts.
Yes.
And they have some really good metal riffs on this EP as well. And I'm not somebody that traditionally listens to this band, so I don't know if this is a consistent thing with them through the years. But Nightfall has great ones, and Nora as well. Just fantastic.
I think Nightfall probably, if we're going to go to it, Nightfall it's the opener, but it's also my favorite on the track. I mean, on the EP, it's super punchy. It's definitely got the call to the mosh going on. I mean, it's definitely, it's an invite to the mosh pit, but you said it right. The riffs are great. It's a great metalcore song, I guess, if we're going to use that word.
Forlorn.
Go ahead.
Forlorn was the video for the EP.
Right.
And that's my least favorite song on the whole album.
I think that might be the fastest, and the drumming is the fastest. But I agree. I love Nora. I loved Contagion, as you mentioned, but I think Nightfall is the one for me that just, and again, it's weird that we're doing that with the Cradle of Filth record. It's the opening track that totally sucked me in on both of these. Yeah.
I really, really enjoyed Nora. Yeah. But Nightfall was my top pick too.
Was it really?
So I think metalheads unite, right?
I think so. And I think if it's
just a good metal track.
Yes. And I think if it's you may not be familiar with the original, but if it's a follow-up to Zombie, like I'm assuming, I think it's a really good follow-up to Zombie. I mean, they did it proud, for sure.
Awesome. Now, this is one question I did have. I was wondering how fans of this genre would feel about this album with it being so light on the clean vocals and on the breakdowns, the things that I typically associate with this type of music.
So
what's your thought on that, since you're more familiar with it?
Yeah, so as a fan, and I think that they've always straddled that weird line of almost not too much clean vocals, but they've done more in the clean vocal side and the lighter side throughout their career, and they mix it. So you'll get full-on attacks, like what was that fast one we were just talking about? Forlorn?
Yeah, Forlorn.
Yeah, I mean, you'll get stuff like that, but then you'll also get the really good clean vocals that you're enjoying, and the maybe not as breakdown-ish, if that makes any sense at all. Does that answer the question?
So so this EP isn't an anomaly for this band.
Not at all. No, I think this is fits right in with their catalog solidly all the way back. I love it.
Okay. Awesome.
So again, if you're a metalcore fan or somebody who wants to jump in, I think this might be a good way to get your feet wet for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. It bridges the gap really well for me.
I think so. So lastly, you threw me for a loop when you hooked up with this one. We try and switch back and forth, and Kills Birds was mine last month, but you tried to stump me, I think, with this one. He threw Billy Idol, The Roadside, at me. And I didn't even realize that Billy Idol was relevant anymore. I mean, I've seen him playing some things here and there, but wow.
Yeah. I know. And what I just the other night, I happened to click on a live video with him and Miley Cyrus, of all people.
Really?
Live in, must have been Vegas. Mm-hmm. Large show. Maybe a stadium show.
Wow.
And or arena, and doing Rebel Yell together. And it wasn't a good rendition for me, but man, he's like 66 or something like that,
and he's lived pretty rough.
And he looks, from at least the neck down, he looks like he's about 27.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable. And his voice, he was live, and his voice was fantastic.
Yeah.
And that just goes right into this EP. The first there's no weak track on this EP to me.
Right.
And the first video that I saw that kind of led me to this was Bitter Taste.
Right.
And I kind of was like, okay, it's a solid song, but it kind of gave me the impression that, oh, it's old Billy Idol now. He's chilled out, you know, almost like the later Johnny Cash.
It's very bluesy,
you know. And it was like, man, that was so far from the truth after I listened to this EP. It's not old Billy Idol. He's as strong as ever.
So I would say, and we were talking about Bitter Taste. It's definitely downbeat and low key and low played, but it's very bluesy and it's got a lot of attitude. And I mean, for a guy who's been doing this for 4.5 decades, maybe, I mean, I remember watching him on MTV when I was in, high school or something. And I mean, I'd say that's pretty stellar.
Yeah. Every song kind of touches on a different aspect of who Billy Idol is. And I'm not a Billy Idol fan, or I haven't listened to him religiously. I just, the songs that are out there, I listen to. But this album went way harder than I was ever expecting it to. His vocal control is like top notch, and his ability to write memorable vocal lines, just amazing. Rita Hayworth, my top pick.
Really?
From this EP. Yeah.
That's funny. So for me, I like I think there's only 4 of them on there. I liked all 4, but for me, it got better as it got on. And I really liked that sort of electro rocking tune at the end there. It was called, or second to the end, You Don't Have to Kiss Me Like That. That was what I'm, and maybe because I associate it with, Billy Idol and the whole new wave sort of thing. And that, that he led the charge for, but I like that one a lot. That would be my pick for sure.
Yeah. I guess the last thing to say about this is that his vocal, like I've repeated it, I guess I've talked about it a couple times, and I'm a vocalist, so maybe I kind of leaned into this, but his vocals were just so strong on this. And, back in the day, that was one thing that probably kept me from listening to him more, was that I could tell his vocals were strong, but he always kind of toned it down a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And he kind of would get to the edge and not go there,
Right.
And being a young guy that did vocals, I just wanted everything, 1,000%.
Right.
But now listening to this EP, I can see how, it really was his control over his vocals all these years. Yeah, he could do that, but he didn't need to do that all the time.
So a little bit of restraint, and that's like knowing when to do it.
Yeah, and the strength to be able to do that. And that's something that I didn't understand, when I was in high school or whatever. But now I do, and that makes this album even more impressive. I don't know if you like rock music, period.
Yeah, I think so.
There's no way you can go wrong with this album.
I mean, I think it even closes nice and strong too with Baby Put Your Clothes Back On. That's a great closer. And like I said, for me, it builds to that point. I thought, out of all 4, Rita Hayworth was probably my least favorite, but not bad. It was great right from the start. I just thought it got better as it got going.
That one just became an earworm for me.
Yeah, it's catchy. The whole thing is catchy.
It dug into my head and stayed there. And I just, I'm doing something wherever, and all of a sudden I'm singing the chorus.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
And that's how you know it's good. So
anyway, I can't be seen out in public doing this.
Anyway, I want to thank you for taking the time. We've got 3 good recommendations, I believe, and probably we hit almost totally 3 different genres of music. So there's something for anybody listening or watching this to go out and check out. Absolutely. Thanks for everybody for watching, and comment below what you think of these albums if you've listened to them, and we'll see you next time. Yeah, and by all means, if you have suggestions and you're listening to this, drop them in the comments, and maybe we'll use them for one of our 3rd choices or something. We're always looking for stuff. So, absolutely. All right. Thank you for listening. Take care. Bye. All right.